Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Am I in there twice? Do you see me twice there?
Yes.
That's weird. All right, let me sort that out. I don't know how to fix that. Well, looks like we have a bigger group. I'll just stay there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
More-
Hi, Stephanie.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. I think I need some coffee.
How late did the council meeting go last night?
You know what? It's the earliest one ever. I was thrilled. I was thrilled. I actually could like have 2 minutes with my family and get my son to actually go to bed on time.
Yeah, eat dinner, all that fun stuff.
He loves those late. Well, we always order pizza nights because there's no way I'm cooking before we start. And then the thing is, he will not go to bed until I'm actually off the phone. So when they go really late, he uses this as an opportunity to stay up.
Oh, I'm glad mine are too young to catch on to that approach.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Let's see. Who else we waiting for today?
I know that Holly will be on the call, and then we'll also be waiting for Emily, who looks like she's here, and Kelly as well.
The Maureen from Olive Seed may join. She was asking me whether she needed to join just at the beginning for the public part or at the end when we talk about Olive Seed. And to be honest with you, I didn't get back to her. Should I tell her or what do you guys think? I don't know how it works.
I mean, she's welcome to jump on at any point in the meeting. The item is more of an informational piece. But if there's anything that she feels she'd like to add to the memo and or the handouts that she gave us that we distributed, she's more than welcome to come on at any time. Speaking of additional attendance, we have, and we'll get to that when the meeting formally starts, but we will likely have our new EPC intern jumping in at some point during the next 2 hours. Pending her school schedule and when she finishes her class. I told her it was, of course, fine to come in whenever she was available. So she likely will be joining us sometime this afternoon.
Nice. Hi, Emily. Hi, Kelly.
I'm muted. Hello, how is everyone?
Good.
Good.
Hello.
Here you are.
Yes,
Sorry,
I'm here.
guys.
No,
I don't know
no
how to
video
get rid of
for
my
today.
second picture.
If we want to give it, I mean, we do have a quorum. If we want to give it a few minutes for Holly to join as the chair to lead the meeting. Otherwise, to refresh my memory of who the appointed vice chair is, or do we have one? Let's see.
I don't think we have an appointed vice chair at the moment.
Let's put that on the agenda, please, for next meeting.
Okay. Oh, here is Holly.
Great. Excuse me.
Hi, Holly. I think you are muted. I think you're muted still.
There.
Much better.
Hello.
Hi, all.
Hello, good afternoon.
It's nice to see your smiling faces. Shall we get started?
Yes.
Let me go back to the packet. Okay. Should we start with the roll call?
Yeah. We'll go ahead and start with that. Chair Joseph,
Present.
Committee Member Khan,
Present.
Committee Member Kariko,
Here.
and Committee Member Davis.
Present.
Thank you. And we also have Council Member Hawkinsman William.
Here.
Great.
And we usually open with public comments, but seeing that it's just us. Does anyone have a public comment to make outside of the meeting agenda? Okay. Moving along. Has everyone had a chance to read last week's meeting minutes? Or not last week, sorry, the last time in January's meeting minutes? I'm going to go with a yes. I need someone to either approve the minutes or make amendments.
I move to approve these minutes.
I
Thanks.
second.
Any opposed? All in favor? Okay.
I
All
asked
right.
a question, am I allowed to vote or, because now I'm in a new role, so forgive me, I don't know how it all works. Do I vote or no?
If I may, through the chair, no,
Of
as
course.
a council member liaison, you are not slated to vote or take any action on items, but provide your input and feedback as it may be for feedback eventually going back to the council.
So if there's something I want to tell the group, like things that are coming up, that would be at the end. Is that how that works?
No, I think the most appropriate time in the agenda would be under item 3, committee and staff member comments. But you know, if it's related to an item on the agenda, of course, that's an okay time as well.
Okay, sorry to take up everybody's time.
Oh, no, because I already noticed, like, you already missed over it. I always like, for me, I always want like the approval of minutes to be number 2 and then number 3 to be the next thing. So it kind of flows. That's just a personal. Because it's just like, does anyone have anything to add to the meeting minutes? And then we can like get started with like committee and staff minute comments.
Sure, and we can make that change in the agenda order for future meetings.
Oh, thanks. I just think the flow is a little nicer.
No problem.
It's a small tweak. Okay, so since it has passed, why don't we go to committee and staff member comments?
So now I can say something, right?
Yes, you can. It was my fault for missing over it.
I'm new to this role and there isn't a day that doesn't go by that I say the wrong thing at the wrong time. So I have been reprimanded many times. So now I'm at the point like a puppy where I'm like, well, can I say it now? But anyway, I wanted to tell everyone that I'd followed up on the air issue. Remember back when we were talking about leaf blowers? And I followed up because we had at the end of that council meeting said that we would do a pilot, and part of our pilot would be that we would ban leaf blower use for the city during Spare the Air days. And then we subsequently realized that that was at one point something like 26 days in a row. So I took it upon myself to try to research this a little bit further, and I reached out and I finally was able to get in touch with the air quality board. And I have a meeting tomorrow. George, the city manager, and I are going to attend. So if you guys have any specific questions, but what I was going to ask them is how can we use what they already do to come up with legislation? So for example, we were talking about that when you use a leaf blower the day after a really big fire, the ground is covered with that fine ash. And if the fire happens to be of not just trees, but of buildings and plastics and, you know, like a city, that's really toxic ash. So one of the things I want to ask them is that from what they already measure, is there anything we could use that we could then say, all right, on these specific days, we will ban the use of air blowers. And even if that doesn't exist, can they work on that? Because that's something not just our community, but the entire state is going to need going forward, because this is going to be our new normal with this much smoke and this much ash. So we have to, so if they don't already have it, I'm going to propose that they push it up the pipe to the state or whoever's involved. I don't even know how this works, but someone to actually delineate that for us and make that available to cities in case they want to use that information for something as a special kind of warning to people, in our case, leaf blowers, which is probably true of all cities with leaf blowers. So anyway, if there are any other questions you guys have, because we are having this one-on-one with them, which is awesome, about air quality issues. So it will be representatives that are both the people that do the policy stuff. And I think that one of them is the scientist who actually does the particulate stuff, who's going to explain to us. Because right now, from what I understand, a Spare the Air Day can be for an ozone day, which wouldn't affect us, but it can also be from a particulate day. So I'm going to a little bit get an education. So, and if there's any questions, let me know and I'll pass them on.
That sounds really nice, Diana. I'm just thinking of like, how do you notify people? Because I know that I still have neighbors who burn sometimes their wood fireplaces on Spare the Air days. And I don't want to be like the wood burning Nazi, but there's I'm just kind of like, how do I, like in a friendly way, say, hey, like, did you know it's Spare the Air? Because there are times when there's fires and it's still weirdly cold. It's not always during the heat of the summer. So I find this an interesting, like, what is the trigger to tell people? I guess that would be one of the things in the legislation I'd want to think about. And maybe Jennifer, since you have this sort of background, you could be like the perfect person to like work with Diana a little bit about thinking about what legal triggers there are, what things you can say and can't say. And I also know you are my co-partner in the leaf blower initiative, like a lot of things we worked on, and you've read, the 60-page CARB document. So you would have lots to say. So I would love for you to be on that call if it is possible.
Yeah,
Even just as a listening tour.
Absolutely. It's 1 o'clock tomorrow. I'll send you the link and I'll let them know you're going to join if you want.
yeah, I would love to. And let me see about, I think I'm actually available to do that. And that would be good. I'd love to participate. Thank you for that. And I raised my little hand there. Did you see that?
Now I do, yes.
Anybody who has the kids, right? You know how to raise your hand in a meeting? Here, let me lower that. Okay, the only thing I was going to ask for was, I felt like our references were not, I wanted more recent science. I think we'd like to know if you could ask, and if I can't be there to listen, my question would be, where can we find the developing science on the lung issues? And it's as it relates to pre-existing conditions like asthma and kids and older folks, that sort of thing. Would just love to have a comprehensive resource for that.
There was a recent news article. Did you see it? I think it was in the Chronicle. I can dig it up. They've done some recent research on this that says that wildfire smoke is 3 times more damaging than other kinds of smoke on the lungs. And they based it on hospital admissions. I'll see if I can dig it up.
There's a lot of legislation in the pipe right now Anna Eshoo submitted one, but it didn't pass. And it included a whole bunch of research on how it affected people, and also budgets for schools to put in air filters, HEPA air filters, and a whole bunch of stuff, but it didn't go through. So I reached out to Josh Becker, who is our state Senate guy. And he said he put someone on getting the information for me, because I asked, well, that didn't pass, what's next and what else is in the pipe? So they said that they would try to find someone, because I don't understand how we get this information. I don't understand how it filters down, and things for us in this particular area are going to change really rapidly. We have Biden in office. He has a whole very aggressive agenda, and things are going to be coming up. And I don't know how we get it. I mean, other than to just see it if it's in the newspaper. So that would be one of my goals, is to figure out how do we find out what's working. Certainly the lobby groups, there are groups that lobby the air quality people, because I managed to get an email on that, but I don't know how any of that works. So if anyone else knows, let me know.
I'll also say I have access to the school I work for is like, research databases. So I can try to see if there's anything in there, but it is a business and psychology school. So I don't know how much stuff they'll have on more hard sciencey type of reports. But if anybody has connections to people like at Stanford or, Berkeley or other big research institutions, it could be worth, and they have to have a kind of a research mind, right? Because it's not the easiest thing to like navigate research databases sometimes. But I'm just thinking, if there is somebody who's willing to like do a little bit of digging and see if there's any more recent articles that have come out, that could also potentially be useful.
Okay. That sounds really nice, actually. Well, I have sort of an announcement. We have an intern that is joining us. We're really excited to meet and greet her. So, hi, I'm Chair Joseph, since you haven't met me yet. And this is Jacqueline. I have to be very careful not to say Jacqueline after years of French training. So having my hand slapped. It's really my pleasure to welcome you. And would you like to, since we're in our period, I don't know if you have the agenda in front of you, but we're just kind of going around talking about like the staff is about to update us and we're discussing topics that are not agendized. So if you would like to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Jackie. I'm a sophomore at Menlo Atherton High School, and I am really excited to be part of your team. And I just can't wait to work with you guys.
Well, this is really exciting. Have you been able to, I guess your AP, what is it? AP, it's not earth science, I forget. What is it called?
AP Environmental Science. Like
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
What
not
do
in
you-
it right now. I'm taking it when I'm a senior.
That's what I think. I think it's like all sort of predestined for you. So hopefully we'll have you around for some time.
Awesome.
Looking
Nice
forward
to
to
meet
working.
you, Jackie.
Thank you. Nice to meet you
Jackie,
too.
so nice to meet you. Does Mr. Roizen still teach AP biology?
I don't know. I'm taking AP Bio next year, but I'll tell you if he does.
I'll get an update. Well, I say that because I graduated from MA in 2012, and I was not a science person, but everyone told me to take AP Bio, and so I did. And I was like, this is still not my thing. But they introduced APES, or AP Environmental Science, the year after I left, which I was like, dang, that might have been more up my alley. So I'm glad you'll get to take that.
We're really excited to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining, for raising your hand for your community. It's really appreciated.
Thank you for choosing me to be a part of the team.
Yay. Welcome.
Jackie, maybe you could give the committee a few words. She has a very, very impressive resume and extensive experience already in areas of sustainability and climate change. You could share a few words on that with the committee too.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a head cheerleader for an student-led environmental group called Bailey, the Bay Area Youth Lobbying Initiative, where we work with local and national politicians to create actual bills that will impact not only our community, but hopefully our state and, all states in the United States. And also I was a youth climate ambassador for the San Mateo Sustainability Group, and I just made a research project there specifically pertaining to water sustainability.
Excellent. It's a topic I have long wished we could cover, but we have to do it step by step kind of thing. Really impressive.
Thank you.
So Diana, do you want to tell us a little bit more about anything else you uncovered or things? I know that we have a recycling day coming up for e-waste and everything else, but that could be a staff comment. So you guys will have a lot to cover, I have a feeling.
Yeah. Well, the only item I had was, well, a couple things, and I'll just talk about them when they come up, because I did talk with George about the tree planting, and I think that someone from Olive Seed is gonna join later. We'll see about what that is. I don't know that we're gonna be helping them much. Maybe Jacqueline might be able to help her because she's looking for student groups to join. But I think she will give us an update because they have changed a lot since the original proposal. So that's kind of all I have right now.
Great, and then I have an item as well. So yeah, the annual Atherton Wastewise event is happening on April 17th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Holbrook Palmer Park. I shared with you prior to this meeting this flyer that kind of gave a summary and overview of that event. So it's open to all Atherton residents, and this is something that the town does each year. And in past years, they've also partnered with the EPC on various aspects of it. And then here's a quick map showing the locations of each of the events. And if there are any questions about it, I'm more than happy to answer them. And one other thing to throw in is that they have included some social distancing protocols for COVID-19. And so they tried to make it safe for residents to attend as well. Thank you. Yes,
Did I-
Diana?
Can I ask you a question? Who attends that? And will we have a table out with our little brochures that we made last year? Because that might be a way to hand those out to people. And do we have a bunch of them left? And you know what I'm saying? Is there anything way that we interface with the people that come to that, or is that just totally separate of us?
Yeah, the town hosts the event with Green Waste, and it's done through the city clerk's office primarily, from my understanding. We do have an opportunity to share materials if you'd like. We could even include it within that work plan that we have for the 2021 sustainability work plan. And with those sustainability brochures that we made in the past, we made enough to send out to every resident in the town. So if we wanted to share any here, we'd just have to print some more. And if we wanted them to be brochure quality, we may consider that in the budget that we have for this year.
Oh, so we don't have a stack of them left around anywhere.
Unfortunately not. We did send them out to everyone.
Yeah, well then I don't know if it'd be worth it really, because people are coming up to get rid of their stuff. I'm just wondering, like, we don't have a way to interface with our public very well. So I was just wondering if that might be a venue, but probably not. You're going to be driving up with your car full of junk. So I could see someone picking something up if it was there, but I don't know. Maybe we're preaching to the people that already know about stuff, because if they're there, they already know about it. It's all the other ones that don't know about it or don't come that we're trying to reach. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I have a feeling we're going to have some budget, so printing out more is probably not going to kill us.
Yeah, well, well, this is not the right, we were talking about making that green building codes brochure next. So if I personally were to prioritize that one seems to be one that we really need, the green building codes. But I think that all of that's going to be punted until we get the new sustainability person. Is that correct?
I think so. It sounds that way. I mean, we've been working on the leaf blower thing as well. So there's only so much time and so many people. So
yeah. Do we want to hand something out to people at that thing? I mean, let's just take that idea. Do you want to hand out stuff to people that come, or
I mean, it could be here's your little receipt and have a nice day. Here's like a little bit, like if you want to learn deeper or whatever, here's like a brochure. Since postage, I believe, is the most expensive item, it's not going to kill our budget. And I'm not clear how our budget's going to be spent this year, like if we're going to even be able to plant a tree. So I don't mind the outreach. I actually don't think it's a bad idea. It's just, turning around that and folding it, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they can fold it there. I have a feeling we'll be able to afford it though.
Well, I don't know if everyone's interested or thinks it's worthwhile, because again, those are people that already are plugged in because they're already there with their car full of stuff. So the goal really maybe is to reach the ones that don't know about it. The way people find out about this event is through our Atherton newsletter thing. I don't know how else people find out about it. It's not in the local newspaper or anything, is it?
From my understanding, the town will use its standard routes of advertisement through the town website. There's also an email list that's kept, and updates are provided to residents in that way. I'm not sure if it's being published in the newspaper, though I can follow up and find out if that's not a possibility.
Now,
And do you know
does
of any other ways, Stephanie, that it's being advertised?
Well, we can confirm, number one, with the city clerk's office on the means of advertisement. Based on my understanding of prior years, is the town has typically held this event annually for like the last several years that I'm aware of. It's done through all of the town's social media outlets, through its e-blast. We've even printed out hard copies and posted them, publicly around when there was kind of more pedestrian traffic, so to speak, around the Old Town Permit Center and at the park, etc. If this sounds like something that the committee may want to discuss in the context of item 5A, may I suggest through the chair that we open up that item for discussion?
Perfect.
So if there's any associated amendments to the 2021 EPC Sustainability Work Plan as it relates to staff's comment or information purposes of this e-waste, then it can be spoken about collectively at that point.
That sounds great, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I do have one last question on that, which is Green Waste is our new provider, and they must have in their contract some amount of requirement to publicize this kind of event. I don't know what's in that contract because that was before I got on, but I assume they must do some sort of mailing, or because it's their constituents that they're providing it for. So in terms of budget, it doesn't feel like we should spend a cent on this. It really should be Green Waste who's doing that, but that's, yeah. So I don't know how that works.
I have a question. Do we have an Instagram account or any kind of social media that is connected to us as an organization?
Oh, Jackie, I feel sad all of a sudden. Have you sat through the Brown Act yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I will let you sit through the Brown Act. And you'll find that some things that make sense to you, like as an everyday citizen, make complete sense. But for city things, we have to go all through the city. And it depends on the city's adoption of certain social medias.
And through the chair, yes, Jackie, the town does have a town-sponsored Facebook, Instagram, Twitter accounts, plural.
So we can't market this event through our social medias, or we can't do that?
We potentially could. We just need to get authorization from the appropriate internal town channels before we do that. Like,
Oh, okay.
not just go onto the town's Instagram account and post something. Neither could any of these committee members on their own. But it is possible to do so. We just need to follow the appropriate procedural steps prior to doing such.
Okay.
Okay. You'll see it's a little cumbersome, but it will make sense later. It's just to make sure there's no backdoor deals. It's to create transparency in government. But sometimes when you're trying to be transparent, it almost feels like the opposite. I'm just trying to explain it quickly before you sit in your seminar. Do you have anything else, Diana?
No,
That's
I
great. I'm really
wrote
excited.
all the wrong times. So
Okay, should we go to our next item? Or Stephanie, do you have more? You have a lot more, actually. Both of you do.
I have no further staff comments at this time.
How about you, Stephanie?
I do not.
Okay. So I guess we're going to talk about 5A, which brings us to our next topic, the sponsored work event.
Yes, I'll go ahead and start on that.
Great.
So item 5A is regarding the EPC sponsored community event, the draft sustainability work plan. So each year, the EPC plans an Earth Day event to engage and educate the community on sustainability and climate-related topics, as well as promote the goals of the town's climate action plan. This year, in light of COVID-19, instead of a more traditional EPC-sponsored Earth Day event, the EPC proposes to host a 2021 community-sponsored event, which is to consist of a tree planting at the new town civic center dedicated to the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which occurred last year in 2020, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic was canceled. The EPC has also decided to prepare initial basic public outreach and education and outreach program related to gas-powered leaf blowers. So at the last meeting, an ad hoc subcommittee of committee members Joseph and Kariko were appointed to further develop a draft proposed work plan and leaf blower education outreach program. The EPC has met 3 times since the last regularly scheduled EPC meeting, and at that the ad hoc subcommittee has prepared leaf blower educational facts, which will be published within the spring edition of the Athertonian, and which will come out which will be published and distributed later this month or into April. The ad hoc subcommittee would like for the EPC to continue presenting leaf blower facts in upcoming Athertonian editions moving forward. The next one would be for the summer and fall. And no further recommendations as it relates to public education for leaf blowers is recommended at this time, nor has it been incorporated in the work plan, which you'll see attached to the staff report of item A. The EPC ad hoc subcommittee worked with planning staff and the town arborist on potential tree species and planting locations for the 50-year anniversary of Earth Day. Tree species were narrowed down to 4 species of the native variety and are listed in order by preference, were listed by preference, which would be first the California red oak, then a California blue oak, the western dogwood following that, and lastly the western redbud. The town arborist recommended these species to be most appropriate native species for the town center, and also recommended various locations for the trees. The EPC ad hoc subcommittee identified that they wanted the tree to be in a visible location that would be well visited by any pedestrians at the future civic center. The ad hoc subcommittee received feedback from the town center project manager who has clarified that town center's protection of existing heritage trees and planting of new trees falls under contract with the assigned contractor, and the contractor is contractually responsible for all of the retained heritage trees on the project site until the site is turned over to the town, and will have a maintenance agreement for a set period of time for all new irrigation and landscaping that is installed per the contract plans, and after the site is turned over to the town. In order to maintain that obligation in a clean manner to prevent challenges or claims, it was advised it may be challenging to add new plantings during the contract and maintenance term, as the contractor will have the right to augment their contract and cost to accommodate the required maintenance and or liability of the new vegetation or change in drainage or irrigation. As such, the ad hoc subcommittee has presented a total of 3 options, 1 preferred option and 2 alternative options with the draft work plan for consideration by the City Council. The EPC has approved an available budget for $5,000 for the fiscal year 2020 and 2021, as you all know, and any suggested event, efforts, or activities that exceed this amount would require a funding request to the City Council. I'm going to go ahead and outline the 3 options that were included within the draft work plan. Excuse me while I open it up. So option 1 was to purchase 1 new tree and commemorative plaque for the town civic center and make amendment to the existing landscape plans. That's the preferred option, but as just discussed, may present some challenges. Option 2 is an alternative option, which the EPC select 1 of the newly proposed trees in the existing landscape plans for the town civic center and commemorate it with the plaque. And option 3 is to purchase a tree and a plaque in advance and plant after the completion of the civic center landscape contract. Each option involves commemorating a tree for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day at the town civic center and uses up some, but not all of the EPC budget. And With that being said, staff recommends that the EPC receive the draft work plan prepared by the ad hoc subcommittee and staff and discuss and provide discussion to staff on any revisions and make a recommendation on a final draft work plan to the city council. The staff will present the final recommended draft 2021 EPC community sponsored event work plan to the city council at the April 14th, 2021 city council meeting, and EPC implementation efforts can begin following any city council approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. You've like moved around on my screen. I'm like, where did you go? So Jennifer, I'm gonna have you discuss like just some of our little chats and thoughts behind the scenes before this got to this point.
So did you want me to talk to him about how we arrived at that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it was just, we just spent time looking at the layout of the property, the goals of the initiative, and what's possible within what we knew. And that's how we kind of discovered the limitations in terms of the care, and also, you know, the right of the prior vendors to identify the trees. And so we just tried to identify the trees that would work within that, and then just provided an option in case that it did not work out for the plaque.
Okay. And then I want to recognize our council person. Dan, I think you're on mute.
I'm never going to get that. I spoke with George, and I think the idea is a great one. The problem with the vendors and giving us the extra $5,000 charge was ridiculous. And it ends up that in the plan, there are going to be trees of the type that you listed already in the plan. So the way to get around some of this would be to just pick an existing tree of the kind that you want that's in a visible place on the plan that's already committed to, for one. So the idea of us paying extra money for a tree tree care was crazy to me. The real problem is that it's a construction site over there, and there won't be a good way to put the tree in and do a whole publicized event on Earth Day. So I know that we've been invited to be part of a Earth Day planting by Maureen. I see Maureen's on the call now. But on the actual Earth Day, we're not going to really be able to do it at the new Civic Center because it's just too early. But the idea of doing this and, is a brilliant one. And I think the mayor and the vice mayor would love to be the ones to plant it. And what was discussed was the idea of tying it into an event we have when we launch the Civic Center, because our library has a whole bunch of sustainability features in it. So what was the idea that came out was, what if we were to couple with the launch of the library and have a whole thing on the sustainability features of the library, and then ceremoniously plant a tree that's in their plan already, in their contract, and put the plaque. Everybody loved all the plaque, loved the whole idea. It was the timing didn't work. So that's my 2 cents on all of this.
Well, I love that, because I think you could definitely craft a media pitch around that too. And that would make a really nice story.
Yeah, so it could be part of an event, like, so picture a whole event where we're,
Yeah.
we're going to announce it and publicize it. They'll talk about the features, and then they'll do the tree planting. And we could dedicate it to this group. We could dedicate it to Earth Day. We can dedicate it to whatever we want, but I think the idea is a great one. And Maureen's on the call. One of the things I wanted to ask her is they were going to do an actual tree planting on Earth Day. And I don't know if we don't do this on Earth Day, if we did it in the future, could we be part of what they're doing? Because they're doing tree planting all these different cities around the world. So I don't know if our video could later, if there's a follow-up video that we could have our video put into that, or I don't know. So that part of it, I don't know.
Maureen? Maureen, you're on mute. So if you could unmute yourself, we'd love to hear your feedback.
Maybe she's not there.
In theory, she's there, but okay. But that kind of sounds like where we ended up, because we got to a point where we looked at the site, we found like places that we liked, we found trees that were drought resistant and California natives and all the positive things that we could do for Earth Day. We worked out the plaque, and then we came to the landscaping problem, and it was just a roadblock. It just sort of hit sort of a dead end. And we're happy to do a plaque. And I think it would be nice to do like a bigger thing. We all sort of reached the conclusion that we're all zoomed out, like everyone has Zoom fatigue. So having an Earth Day idea around a Zoom event wasn't so popular. The only question I have though, is when does this fall? Because we will use it or lose it, our budget by June. So.
Is it use it or lose it? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
we go back to zero. So we lost last year with the exception of the brochure that went out. So when I'm saying like, you want to print brochures, I'm like, let's print brochures and hand them out at the e-waste event, because we have money that we need to spend that's going on nothing. We've done everything else very economically viably, you know, like making sure it gets into the Athertonian and trying to get other educational outreach that we can afford. It's expensive. Our budget goes really fast for an Earth Day event. I can tell you from doing several, $5,000 doesn't go very far. You call in all your favors and all your friends. So I'm trying to be like, okay, we have a little bit of money. So if we want to print this brochure, I think that's fine.
Well, we
If
could
we're
do
stymied.
sorry, Holly, we could
Oh,
do,
sure, Emily.
we could do the plaque in advance, and then, you know, whenever it's ready. We could,
Okay.
especially if we're using the tree money that's already existing, you know, from the original contract that we don't have to contribute to.
We
Okay.
have a city vendor that's making these little plaques that are going on next to the doors that are bronze. And, but I think that vendor may be too expensive, but I at least can get a copy of that. And then if we want to commission out to make our, well, we'll obviously have to hire someone to make it. We can use their design and let them bid if they want, but I think it's complicated because I just was put on this donor wall thing, trying to figure out how we're going to make our donor wall out of bronze plaques. And so we do have a current vendor that's making little bronze plaques, but they're not for outdoors. The ones they're making, well, they have some for outdoors, but anyway, in short, we can use their design or as a template. And then I have just been researching vendors to do this for the donor wall. So if you guys have an ad hoc committee to go and order the little plaque this year, I can connect you with the ones that we're going to end up using for the city. So we can ask them, you know, to give us some prices, but some of them are not very expensive, like, you know, a few $100s.
Okay. Does this sound like a good idea for most of the group for our Earth Day? I mean, we're gonna have to do something event. I mean, we just got a little stymied. I mean, I think our idea was a good idea. It's just a question of like not running out of budget when we would want to use it.
What if we were to create a little video, and that would be, you know, that's about the sustainability features of our library, and we use our money for that and talking about Earth Day and talking about our environmental programs committee that we have and the work that we do, and we make a little tiny video that could be aired at all the openings that we have for the Civic Center. So when we have these gatherings, we could show it there, and we could show it when we do our actual tree planting. I mean, and the other item is really the green brochure. So I don't know how to get that back on the agenda, because if we have to spend our money, that was one we maybe want to consider before the money goes away.
Yeah, I think handing it, I mean, I'm not going to imagine we're going to have to print out very many for the e-waste event. There's not that many houses, and you have to be an Atherton resident, and you have to take a percentage of it. So it's not going to be a giant amount, and we're not using postage. So there's like many factors that make it less expensive. We could go crazy on the plaque. We could have it in neon lights, I think. Not that it would be tasteful for Atherton and that would cause lots of problems. I'm just saying, like, I think our budget is a little bit bigger.
Do you like the idea of doing a small video that's about sustainability?
I do. It's just all the content might be a little challenging. So I have some ideas that I think we still have. We used to do this where on the webpage you had past Earth days, so you'd have like little blips from it. We also have some of our speakers from last year's or 2 years ago Earth Day. We could loop in like a splice of speakers and stuff. It would require some editing. It's really not my forte, so
Well, I think
not-
but I think what our budget lends is it's actually a pretty good amount to get somebody professional to do something like that and do all the editing. And what it might require is maybe those of us who are comfortable like going and standing outside and being interviewed and having different council members being interviewed or something along those lines, depending on what we wanted to put together. But I mean, I've only investigated like, I guess, a video of this kind once, but the ballpark price for it was around $3,500. So it seems like we might be able to do something with that along those lines.
Emily, I'm going to call upon your past, experience. Where do you think that the budget would lie?
Oh, that I don't know. I would say Kelly probably has a more up-to-date idea of that than I do. My question on the video is the purpose to sort of talk about the new building and tout what the EPC does, or do we want to have it more instructional about what Atherton residents can do?
I don't know. It just occurred to me that there is going to be, we do want to promote our sustainability features of the library. And again, the bigger goal is to educate people. For us to do a general video of what everyone can do. You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I think that's a great question though. But I think Diana's proposing this idea just because it's something to work with. And I think that we can decide which purpose we want.
If we want to highlight, my thinking is if we want to highlight green building, the library is a one way to sort of tackle it because it's giving an example and it's a concrete thing that's really hard for us to do examples on. Since we don't have many homes that are still completely sustainable in the area, and finding them has been challenging since I've been on this committee, which is now 6 years. And before that, even we had like a couple identified and there was a home tour. Stephanie could probably speak more to it even than I can because she's been here even longer. So it has been an ongoing challenge. So on that element of it is positive. Here's the one little thing I'm thinking is that the library generally has a very generous amount of cash that we don't. So it's like, how can we partner with them as well? We may not need it, but it might be a partnership thing, because if you're highlighting the library, I feel then maybe they should kick in a little bit because our budget is never that large. So it sort of depends on the scope and scale of what we want to do.
Yeah, they eventually will have a monitor up in the lobby of the library where they'll be able to show videos. So I've been told. That's not built yet, or it's very in the future, but that we were discussing it in terms of making videos that we could, have people see when they walk in the library, and it's on a circle of, showing things about the history of the town, and it could be, that'd be another place to put the sustainable thing. But yeah, they do want to brag about their features. We want to brag about their features. And I love tying it into green building, which should be one of our biggest agendas, because for Atherton, we have a lot of electric cars, which is awesome. But all of our green building codes are optional. And a lot more cities are doing it. I think at the council meeting before last, Rick DeGolia is now the chair of Peninsula Green Energy, and he was nominated to be the chair. And he said that they're really pushing on REACH codes, and that something like 11 cities have already gotten onto it. And so he's trying to get on the agenda to talk about this. So one thing I'd like to see if any of you guys can attend that as public when he does do that, because he's going to get it. I think it's in April. He'll be talking a little bit about reach codes and what Peninsula Green Energy is now promoting for cities to do. So it'll be good for all of us to hear what he has to say in that context. So maybe Stephanie, can you tell people when that's going to be? You'll know before the rest of us, right?
We should. I would also just like, if I can, through the chair, just to take a step back and offer a few comments from the logistical and technical perspective.
Of course.
Relates to this particular item which we're discussing, which is the EPC's draft 2021, we'll call it community sponsored sustainability plan.
Mhm.
Ultimately, what we're hoping for staff by the end of this meeting is to have an EPC consensus on the content of a final draft work plan that we as staff need to present to the council at their April 14th meeting before any work can happen. So presumably if the council does approve such work plan on April 14th, come the following day on April 15th, then implementation and action can actually start happening. The content of that work plan, it sounds like, may be revised from what we currently have. Whoops, there we go.
It's okay.
In front of the video, from what's currently been distributed and on the table for consideration today. So far, I've heard that what the draft currently has as option 1, which is a tree and a plaque, may potentially be revised to just include a plaque of some capacity at an X estimated cost, $200 to $400, $500, whatever that may be. And then I've also heard potentially allocating some funds for hard copy materials to be distributed at the town's existing e-waste event. We haven't talked about if there would be EPC committee membership, physical attendance at that event, or if we can just coordinate with the existing town staff that's already resourced to staff that event to man a table, so to speak, for such items. So that would be an additional revision potentially to this document if the EPC concurs jointly. I've also heard some discussion about potentially slating some funds for the continued development, I'll say, of some green building materials. Maybe Jake could chime in and give a better update as to where we are. I know we had an appointed ad hoc committee that was working somewhat on developing those materials. And that's okay, we can continue doing that. But if the EPC wants to slate some funds in either the production, mailing out, whether you're tying that into the e-waste event or if that's going to happen after, again, that's another sort of line item amendment to this document. And then lastly, from a financial perspective, I also heard the potential of slating some funds for, I'll just call it an educational based video that would be aired continuously and or piggybacked on any of the Civic Center launching events, which isn't going to happen, of course, until, I guess I'd say best case late summer, early fall of this year. The other thing timing wise is that any of those proposed financial budgetary line items that ultimately the EPC proposes in their final work plan to the council, those monies do need to be spent by June 31st of this year. So for example, a video, it's certainly fine for the EPC to line item that as a draft item in your work plan to present to the council on April 14th. And should the council approve that, it's just important to note that the final production of that video, whatever it may look like and whichever vendor may be chosen, needs to be paid by June 31st. So you've got about 2.5 months worth of time. You may wish to appoint an ad hoc committee to work on that, since our next regularly scheduled EPC meeting won't be held until May, to identify content, vendors, and then come back to your EPC in May for final buy-in, and then production. So there's just some timing constraints and monetary constraints that just need to be taken into consideration. Not that it's not doable, but just points to consider as you continue on in this discussion.
Okay, I think that's super helpful to keep us on track, Stephanie. I really appreciate that. So I think we can all agree the plaque is something we can do and we could deliver by budget time. I don't think handing the document out, I do actually think it would be fine with the staff, Stephanie, just because they're already there to hand out a brochure as people drop something off, just to hand out a brochure. It doesn't need to be a separate table or whatever. It just could be thanks and just, you know, for your further education kind of thing. The green building materials, I think I was the only one on that thing and I haven't done anything with either you or Jake. So that has not happened and that's not going to be delivered in time to make it this big thing. It's been started and stopped a few times. And it sort of stopped, I think, because we're trying to hire the new person who's coming near the time that everything starts with the Civic Center and the library and everything else. It seems it's going to be about a similar time frame. So that is not done. The educational based video is a possibility to get started, where some things stymie us would be, you know, it has to get approved and then we have 2 months to turn it around. We could use things that we have from the past and create a small little video, but it wouldn't highlight all the things in the library because in theory, the library hasn't been completed. So it's going to be harder to film something that's not done. What say all of you? Jennifer?
Just a point of order. I'm wondering, is Stephanie, if people decided that they wanted to do the video, is it considered spent when you retain your producing professional and provide them with the funds? And then, so even if you're filming past June, is your money considered spent by that time? Just a question.
Yeah, I would confirm with our finance director, but my understanding is that the finance department needs to issue check of payment for services to be considered spent. So even if we have them on retainer and there's an agreement prepared between the town and selected video vendor, they would need to invoice us and we need to pay them by June 31st. So depending on the agreement terms of potential selected vendor, I mean, you could pay them and maybe you could pay them on June 30th, but then July 1st, complete the work if that's an agreed upon term in the contract. That makes sense?
Yep.
So what do you guys think? Do you think we should go ahead and try to do a video for the greenness of the library?
I like the video idea better, but it seems like it's really pushing it. My instinct is to focus on the plaque process.
Oh, the plaque, I feel like we all have agreed and we will have some extra money is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Because the plaque will say it's 300 to 400. I'm going to say at the upper end, the document, since we're not mailing it, is like $100. What would you say, Stephanie?
Yeah, just so that I'm making sure I'm understanding correctly, the idea would be to take the existing finalized sustainability brochure that was mailed townwide, print out X amount of colored copies on good quality.
Exactly.
Distribute those at the e-waste event. Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I mean, it'd probably be better quality to print out of town center, right? And so, yeah, I wouldn't imagine it would be more than a couple hundred tops, depending on how many you decide you want to print.
I think like we wouldn't need that many. I would say 100 would be generous and we could hand them out again.
How many people came last year?
Pardon?
How many people did we have last year at our e-waste event?
I'd have to check with the clerk's office because last year collectively the EPC did not align their the year before, the 2019 Earth Day event with the e-waste. Whereas I don't know if it was, I can't remember now, I apologize, if it was 2016 or 2017 when we collectively, the EPC did align with the e-waste event.
It was 2017.
2017, and that boosted a lot of attendance. And I want to say like we tracked in the range of like about 100 people. and they were able to kind of cross mingle because we held it physically at the same location.
And
And
this,
then-
we have a
so-
new vendor and we don't know how many people are going to hear about it this year. So it's kind of harder to judge, right?
Yeah.
We had a conversation at the last meeting about potentially using extra funds beyond the tree and plaque to do educational print materials, if I'm recalling correctly, around leaf blowers, but maybe it was also around waste and garbage sorting and that kind of thing. So I have two questions. One, does it make sense to defer that until we have more clarity around what our actual leaf blower policy is going to be? And then two, what is the opening date of the library slated to be currently? Like, does it make sense to use our money on that video right now? I don't know. I don't really know when the buildings are slated to open.
It
So
looks like fall. Is that correct, Stephanie?
that's
And
correct.
if by fall, you mean like September, October?
Yeah, September, October, but again, we're
Okay,
talking about the construction world, right?
right.
In the process of literally hammering nails and such, so
Yeah,
definitive. But again, unfortunately, as it relates to the $5,000 that the EPC currently has available for this fiscal year, right, which
Yeah.
ends
Ends in June.
I mean, I can't give you a guarantee that next fiscal year, starting July 1st, 2021 to June 31st, 2022, that $5,000 couldn't increase. It could potentially decrease. It's a proposed budgetary line item that the council will consider as part of the overall budget plan. I can just state, based on prior years, the amount slated for the Environmental Programs Committee has always been $5,000. It's actually interesting. The EPC is the only town appointed committee that has budget. All other town committees have not traditionally ever had a budgetary amount associated with them, their work, excuse me.
okay. I just wanted to raise that in case the building was actually, sorry, my dog's growling. The building was going to be open in 2022 or something, you know, it's just kind of worth considering when, you know, when whatever you're working on is actually going to be able to be seen or read by constituents. So.
It should certainly be this year. I mean, foreseeing some really big, you know, construction related issue that pops up that hasn't been already identified.
Okay. Diana?
I was going to ask, how far are we in our leaf blower materials? Because if our immediate charter is to get out information on that topic, maybe that would be one thing we want to do, some paper. Is that a realistic thing?
It's already going to print.
So, but that's going to be mailed out. Should we make a brochure on that as well? Or is that a waste of money?
I feel in this case, it may be a waste of money. It's going to go out in the Athertonian, which is a soft way to convince people versus like sending this out. It kind of sounds like a position paper versus just sort of like it's in with other things. And then people get to think about it because there's a lot of people who like during your meeting, I remember someone thought that the leaf blower was $2,000 despite being told 200, and it was an interesting, like the feedback was interesting. So the goal was to sort of drip information on different categories through the Athertonian. And make sure that like more people knew like sort of leaf blower facts, whether it was like air pollution, noise pollution, what it does to the soil. So we've really covered like the pollution and particulate part in this last one as well as you can, like without reading 60 pages. We've condensed it, sort of highlights of what you need to know. And the next goal, Emily was not Emily. Oh my gosh, it was in January was mentioning the earth part. And so I think the leaf and the earth and making sure that they don't get destroyed and you have like a good ecosystem was another idea that would come up again. We drip that again in the Athertonian. So it's sort of an educational, but a very like, you got to think about this. Now we're giving you another thing to think about. Unless you have another suggestion. I don't think the leaf blowers are going to change overnight is my guess. I know that things tend to move a little slower than my original expectations were joining the committee. So I'm all for dripping information and getting more people to understand like where these things are coming from.
I think that sounds great. I'm really pleased to hear what you guys are doing. That's awesome.
Jackie, you have a question, comment, or concern?
For the library, and I feel like the video would cost a lot, and since our budget is limited, I thought that maybe another way to bring out our name at the library that would fit, the library itself is seed cards that are bookmarks, and they start as low as 50 cents for one, and we could write our logo and our key plans for the year on them, and they're cute, and they would just bring out our message, and you can plant them. So
Love it.
And they could give them out at the library then?
yeah, for bookmarks, yeah.
That'd be very cool.
I mean, that's that we could ship even like for our Earth Day plan, to be honest, Jackie. I think you could do that as like send it out and we'll seed you at the library or something.
Cute.
I'm not the best for, marketing all the time, just an idea. I'm just saying for our next year's plan, usually we go over that. I mean, it's kind of a rolling item, but I wish we had like 4 tenants to tell you like, we're going to do this, this, and this, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work that way. We do have plans in mind, but there'll be a few changes. It's hard to say how they're going to turn out. I'm excited to see how it does turn out. I'm also going to roll off in, I think it's June. Is that not correct? Stephanie, isn't my term up in June? Isn't that my last meeting?
No, I think we were pretending that wasn't happening last time we spoke. Yes.
Love that seed idea. And that is an item that you guys could consider for your budget, right?
Yeah, it's completely doable. Jackie, do you know, like, do you have, could you send Jake maybe some places where you found this and we could see what it takes, and we could send it even to a printer in theory with like a soy-based ink?
Yeah, I have a couple websites up here right now, and I'll send it to him.
Great. We could, it's easy to do our logo and, kind of like an Earth Day-ish kind of thing. And if we could do like California wildflowers or something, that would be even better. We want to keep it native, so we're using less water, less pesticide.
Of course.
If I may, through the chair, just
Sure.
for clarity purposes, is the idea to potentially integrate the seeded bookmarks into this fiscal year's proposed sustainability work plan?
It would be, because I think it's something we can actually finish.
Great.
I don't know if we can finish the video. This is my big question mark in time. I don't know if we can explore it in time to present it for April either. What do you ladies think?
I
I think-
agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the only thing we could do is prepay someone
Yeah.
to get it done. And maybe we don't need to do that because the library is going to have available funds, and we can sort of get them to focus on a sustainable angle anyway, since that's going to be one of the very cool things about the library. So,
But we could work in conjunction with them.
correct. Yeah.
I mean, we do have materials from like past Earth Day events and other things that they could also incorporate, which I'd be happy to like, go have it. I think you know where all the bodies are buried. Yes, Stephanie, like where all the videos and photos, they used to be on a gallery on our page for a while, but we haven't had an Earth Day event with like a lot of photos. So
Yeah, we have, there should still be some online. And we also would have our own internal files on the town's network. So we can piece all that together at some point in the future, if that was the choice of the committee at that point.
yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think? Should we add this to our Jackie's idea? What do you think of doing this? It's a shippable item. I think it'll get approved. It just know what message would you want to put on it? Emily?
Those were my applause hands.
Oh, I need my
I
glasses.
love
on.
Jackie's idea. Well, let's think. I mean, I do think numbered lists are good. I don't know whether you want to do, top 5 things residents can do to green Atherton. Or we could have it more kind of garden and yard focused if we want to talk about some of those things. I mean, what do you think is most important to communicate right now?
I'm going to recognize Stephanie. She has something to say.
I was going to just throw out for consideration for the committee, if you'd like to add this line item as a revision to the existing draft work plan, certainly no problem. We can ballpark it at the high range. And if the committee wants to, you could appoint an ad hoc subcommittee. That could also include Jackie, pending her availability, and work through the finite details of what the information on the seeded bookmark should contain. We can present it to the council in a more broader approach, presumably if the committee is agreeable and amenable to the approach of some type of public educational material as it relates to matters of sustainability as vetted in your climate action plan.
That sounds great. So I guess we need a subcommittee. Would you be up for that, Jackie? I know it's all new to you.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. And I will need another volunteer.
Now, I'm happy to work with Jackie. Do we need group input as to what we think the most important things we're trying to communicate are? I mean, I'm just conscious that we're going to have to fit it on a pretty small.
I think actually this is a great combination between the two of you. Jackie,
Okay.
you are welcome to brainstorm every idea you have, and you are welcome to tailor it to 5 little bullet points. Because the challenges of Atherton is that we don't have it's not a typical city. We don't have a big downtown area. We don't have industrial. So the only things that we really can tackle are our cars, our homes, and things that tend to our garden really here. I mean, it's very different than other places. We do have public transportation, sort of. I mean, we could say biking, sort of. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't have control over asking people to do, but the things that we do, those are the things I would focus on. It's like your home, your garden, and your car.
So for example, I mean, could you go big and say, buy an electric car, buy an electric leaf blower, sign up for Peninsula Green Energy, and 2 more? Or is that offensive? Is that too direct?
They can't ever, we can't endorse anyone per se. You can say green energy.
Sign up for green energy, but I think people don't know how.
Well, already you are signed up unless you've opted out, actually.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Well, so I didn't know that. So then we don't need to do that.
Yeah. So it's consider transportation options, an electric car, a bike, a scooter, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
electric, rake, use an electric blower, double pane your windows. There's lots of little small things you could, I mean, I think most people's homes actually here are double paned at this point. When I wander around my neighborhood, it's pretty double paned.
Okay. What about the guy that came to speak to us about an energy audit? I'm just trying to think of what resources we could direct people to on this bookmark that they may not know about otherwise.
Do you remember who that was, Stephanie?
That's the home analytics, James Toulouse.
Okay. Are we allowed, because that's a private company, would that be okay on a bookmark? Or I think it's saying go to Pacific or whatever, Peninsula Clean Energy. I don't think we're allowed to endorse anyone.
I think what we do have, I'm pulling it up right now, is the
Partnership.
resource page off of our sustainability webpage on the town's website.
Yeah.
A series of websites, companies, organizations, not necessarily endorsing one over the other, but just a resource bank, so to speak, where residents can go and investigate on their own accord matters related to energy reduction, water conservation, waste reduction, etc.
Okay. So
Maybe we could use that link on the.
Yeah, I was going to say we could direct people to that. Okay.
There's all sorts of rebates too that people can get for buying things. green things. So that's another resource that would be interesting for people to hear about.
Okay, well, Jackie and I can brainstorm. I haven't been on a subcommittee yet that's actually, creating a deliverable in a relatively short time frame. So what's the process for that?
So if the committee agrees to appoint yourself and Jackie as the subcommittee, you are then free to meet at your own time and convenience. Likely Jake or I will also meet with you as well. You can meet once a week. You can meet every day if you really wanted to. No limitation in the amount of time and or when you can meet. And really, I would recommend perhaps though that the subcommittee not do too much work. You can start initial conversations, but post April 14th, when we present this as a item for the council, once we get their approval, the following day, you can kind of hit the ground running a bit harder in really spending times and energies in developing the content of it.
Okay, so you don't need anything by the 14th.
No, all you need in advance of the 14th meeting and prior to the end of this item 5A before we jump into 5B is consensus by the committee to what I've been hearing is making revisions to attachment 1 of the item 5A memo, which is your draft 2021 sustainability work plan. For it sounds like perhaps if the committee wants, staff can make those technical revisions in the document, and then we present to the council for their review and hopefully approval. I'll report back following any approvals, and then we can again hit that ground running in implementing any of the items on your work plan prior to June, was it the 31st of this year?
Okay, or Jackie and I allowed to email each other?
Yes.
Okay, Jackie, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Will you as well?
Yes, and Jake can connect all of us together as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we should tackle item B. How does that sound? You guys feel that we've had a good conversation regarding our plan? And Jake and Stephanie, you both have enough to submit something to the council, like a preliminary if you had to talk to them in the hall?
Yeah, so just for make sure we're all on the same page of understanding, I've heard from the committee as a consensus that they would like to present a draft 2021 EPC sustainability work plan that effectively includes 3 budgetary line items. 1, the creation of a commemorative plaque for an existing tree at the town permit, existing approved to be planted tree, I should say, at the town permit center. 2, to print out hard copy color brochures of the existing sustainability brochure that was mailed out townwide to be handed out at the e-waste event. And 3, a line item for the creation of, are we calling them seated bookmarks, to be also distributed townwide to every home in Atherton. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, just so you can remind everyone about how much does postage cost for an envelope?
For a postcard or for a?
Because it's a bookmark, you probably aren't going to be printing their address and everything on a bookmark. It's not going to be that size. So I'm thinking for a bookmark, we're going to need to stick it in some sort of envelope.
So for that, we'd need to pay for not only the postage, but the labor of putting them.
Yeah, I'm making sure that it should be fine. I think it's around 700. Great.
I was going to say in the ballpark of $700. I mean, we can up the estimate to like 1,000 to account for the labor of well, we'd also have to account for the cost, right, of the printing, but still, I think you're well within your $5,000 budget. So the between Jackie and staff and Emily, we can drill down a bit more on the final estimated cost of printing or producing the bookmark, and then the associated mailing costs of each one.
I'm just trying to remember all the little line items that we're going to have.
Yeah.
But I
So-
still feel like we're well under our budget, so we shouldn't have to stress out. Okay, so Stephanie, I think for the 5B, I would like you to lead off because I feel like you know more than I do about this.
Yeah, no problem. Let me just shift paperwork here for a moment. So I'll just give a really brief really brief overview of the memo that was distributed for this item. The item itself is the request for the EPC to review, provide comment to staff, for staff to then share with the city council on the draft request for proposal that has been prepared for a future part-time sustainability coordinator. So just a bit of background. Back in January of 2021, the city council discussed this as a consideration item. This being the possibility of the town hiring a consultant staff member part-time to serve purposes of providing all sustainability staffing resources, both to the Environmental Programs Committee and to the town itself in general. The council did unanimously approve staff to prepare a request for proposal to try and find a individual to serve in this position, again, for a part-time basis, which equates to either 20 hours a week or up to 1,000 hours per year. So the process that the town undertakes in hiring outside consultants is to prepare an RFP, which then gets distributed publicly for any interested organization, company, or an individual to respond to. So what we have prepared in draft form is such RFP for this future part-time contract staff position. So the RFP, it follows format and template structure in how the town has traditionally issued such RFPs for other positions. Like, for example, our city attorneys are contract staff, and an RFP was created prior to the selected town attorneys firm that has been hired and serves the town for attorney services. So the RFP contains an overview. What are we looking for? What is this RFP and what's the position? It gives a bit of background as to why the town is looking to fulfill such position. It gives some reference to related town regulatory documents, such as our climate action plan and our municipal code, things that this future position will likely need to take into account in their efforts related to sustainability actions, policies, or programs that get developed for the town. And then it gives specificity as to the scope of services that we are requesting such position to provide. So basically the job, tasks, and responsibilities that we're hoping that a sustainability coordinator can fulfill. It outlines the term of the contract that would be developed with the town and the future contractor, the compensation, which should also be integrated into the agreement services. And then lastly, it also identifies the ideal qualifications or experiences and background that the town is hoping anybody who does respond to the RFP has and or has the skills and abilities to demonstrate their abilities in providing the identified scope of services. So a draft of this has been created. It's an attachment to your memorandum. And again, what we are asking, we as staff are asking the EPC to provide us to share back to the council at the April 14th city council meeting as well, are any comments, revisions, enhancements, deletions to the draft that you think would be worthwhile to share with the council and ultimately a final recommendation.
I guess it would maybe like how you would, it wasn't clear how you'd work with the EPC in the document that I found. That was the one question mark I had. Like, what is the relationship? I'm guessing it's very dotted line, right? How will we work with this individual? Would this person join us on our bi-monthly meetings? Is that correct?
Yeah. So if I could direct you to, oh, there's no page numbers on it. It's
Did I miss
under
it?
service requirements.
Okay.
One scope of services, there's a bulleted list in alpha term
Okay, I see where it is.
number B. It's basically B through.
Oh, okay, never mind. I saw the greenhouse gas, our original, the long, what is it? I always want to call it CPAC now, but it's not that.
The climate action
Cap,
plan.
yeah, the cap that we had worked through many years ago. Okay, I see it. Never mind. That was the only thing I was just curious. I want to make sure that's there, and just just to understand the relationship. The other thing was just kind of like as not as part of this group, but as a recruiter, when I'm reading it, I'm hoping it's not how it's ever going to be posted for a job, because it's very unappealing.
I second that as a career services advisor.
I wouldn't want to apply for this. It doesn't sound like, well, what would you be growing? You know, what do you get to, who do you get to work with? What's exciting about this role? All of that is missing from this particular document, but I understand it's an RFP, which is a different beast.
Yeah, and I think, well, I'm not familiar with RFPs, but one thing that I kind of have questions about, I guess, when I see scope of services, I guess it's saying, you know, you could be asked to do any of these things, but I wonder, and it's a very long document, so I apologize if I missed this, but there's no, I didn't see anything specific about what the range of hours might be for this.
Oh, it's really defined. It's 20 hours up to 1,000 a year.
Where did I not? Where?
Think it's near the beginning. It's
Okay.
definitely for someone who's a contractor. I understand the reason why it's an RFP. And it's like a service thing. It's just, as you read it, it's just not very appealing. I wish we could warm it up somehow, but that would be the only thing I would ask. Because if I was applying to this job, I just want to get the best person. And another thing I thought of when reading it is there are a lot of people who, like, Stanford is the top school for environmental engineering. So I was wondering if you could get someone who's in their master's program who could do this role 20 hours a week, ? You may actually get a lot of really great candidates with a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you. And I apologize. It was actually something that I did want to ask the EPC that we could share with the council was, once a final draft version of the RFP is structured and approved, who should we send it to? I mean, we can go through our normal courses of action, which is posting on the website. We can send out to recruiters. I was thinking about pinging the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability for any private companies they may know. But if there's any other ideas, such as Stanford University directly itself, I'm happy to take that feedback as well and share that with the council.
Diana? Oh, Diana, can you unmute yourself? I can't hear you.
I took one of those classes at Stanford, so I do know the professor that teaches them. And are we allowed to, once it's published, are we allowed to send it directly to people? Because I would send it to Menlo Spark, because the people that worked on their cap, they just wrote their cap last year. So they had people that were, right up to date on it. In fact, one of the things they'd offered is to come and talk to us about how they did their cap and what they decide to put in and not put in. But I would send it to them. I would send it to Actera and all the big groups that have monthly Thrive, all these organizations that have monthly newsletters and events and stuff. That will get it out to the types of people. But I think the university is a really great start, specifically to the two professors that teach it, because they would be able to point us in the right direction.
Great. And I can integrate all those points into what would a final staff report that needs to accompany a final draft RFP to be presented to the council at the April 14th meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. I would love to have great candidates for this. And I think because it's 20 hours, you could potentially have someone who's finishing their master's do this role.
Can we
that's
send it to
possible.
people? Are we free to send it to people once it's public?
We me as an individual or you as a council member or the EPC as a whole, right?
Right.
Which mask are we wearing today?
Jackie, I'm sorry, we're all laughing because this is all part of the Brown Act. And once you go and sit through the part you're gonna do with the lawyer, the town attorney, it'll make more sense to you because there's some things you can't do directly because it looks preferential and you have to be very above board and have everything very public.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to ask I'll just call it the legal logistical questions of whom, how, and where, once the final RFP is blessed by the council, it can be distributed. Presumably from an HR perspective, I'm going to guess there are some established pathways we need to stay on. I just don't know how wide those pathways are. But I definitely can get the answers to that.
As long as it's usually published publicly, the rest of the pathways are generally HR acceptable. Kelly, you found your hand up for a while. Would you like to chime in?
Yes, I know. I was like, do I bring this up or not? But I think I just don't want us to also forget that sometimes, people go back to school and they'll get like an associate's degree and be finishing up a bachelor's program somewhere. And they may also be good candidates, even though they're not working on their master's. So I just, I think putting it out to those who are in their masters is certainly great, but I guess I'm thinking from kind of a
Diversity and inclusion.
thank you, yes, and that's a piece of it for sure, and just making sure we're staying open-minded because there's a lot of great people out there.
I was only saying that because it requires a bachelor's degree currently as it is written.
I thought bachelor's degree was preferred, but maybe
It's required.
okay.
But I
Oh,
think
yeah,
the thinking
sorry, I
is
didn't
great
realize
to make it as diverse and inclusive as possible is an excellent idea. I just know that Stanford is the top rated school for environmental engineering in the country.
Are we
it-
looking? Yeah.
I'm just saying, and they're right in our backyard. So there could be like a master's student who'd like to do something as well as be in school. That's just my thinking.
Totally, absolutely. I
Kelly,
think that
you have students?
I don't think I might have students who are majoring in business administration is on there. I mean, they are working on their bachelor's degree. And I was going to also, so I thought that a bachelor degree was preferred. So I misread that. And I actually would recommend saying that it is preferred instead of required. Maybe there are some things that I don't know that require it to be required. But again, kind of thinking about, somebody who maybe has like a lot of work experience, but only has an associate's degree or something like that. I think that there's something else that might be difficult, and maybe not in this job market, but I'm just saying this so that we keep it open-ended. But sometimes like with part-time positions, you get fewer people, and so it can broaden your pool of candidates to select from and it doesn't mean, of course, if you get people who are working on their master's degree programs, then you would probably look at that over someone else anyway. But just keeping it open allows, I think, for a broader pool to select from.
Totally agree. Jackie?
I apologize. I totally forgot that I have another meeting at 2:35.
Please go. Yeah. Go. We understand.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for jumping right in.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll be following up with you later about your newly appointed ad hoc subcommittee role.
And
Thank
we're
you.
really excited to have you.
Thank you. Me too.
Bye. Okay, so are there any other things that we'd like to add in or things that we feel is missing? I feel it's written broadly enough on the whole that you incorporated most of the things that I could think of when I read it. I'm sorry I missed out on the dotted line thing.
If I may, through the chair,
Sure.
One textual change to the actual draft RFP that I've heard Is there a group consensus on changing the qualification bullet point from requiring a bachelor's degree to stating
Preferred.
degree is preferred? There's group consensus there on that.
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
It also, it's true. It opens up your pool legally as well. You can't actually hire someone who doesn't have the degree then, if it is required by law.
Excuse me.
Okay, what is our, hold on, I lost my tab. Where'd it go? Sorry, guys. I probably have like 3 of these open now. All right, the Olive Seeds Earth Day Environmental, Literary, and Stewardship Project. And that's our next thing, so.
Thanks. I'll briefly introduce this. It came across the town by Maureen O'Kicki, who was here momentarily ago. Looks like she's no longer on the call.
Yeah.
But it was sent to, I believe, Diana, and was distributed to the EPC for consideration or discussion and information. But as you see in the staff report, the brief summary of it is that this is a collaborative program amongst high school students that is commemorating Earth Day and invites students to participate in a collaborative project for local environmental stewardship actions. And in result of receiving this, town staff has sent this to our local high schools as well as here to you. And so it was discussed with the high schools that they would distribute it amongst their student populations. And I would invite Maureen or Diana to speak to this more directly if there's anything you want to add. But the direction here is if you have any follow-up questions, you're more than happy to ask, or you can ask. And if there's any discussion you'd like to have or direction you'd like to provide to staff, please do so. Thank you.
Diana, if you unmute yourself, I'd love to hear your point of view.
Maureen texted me. She was on the call earlier. I guess she was, I don't know what happened. She missed when you called on her, but then she was there and then she had to leave. She did text me a message. Can I just read what she said to say?
Of course.
She said, our collaborative Earth Day project is tree themed. We launched different tree planting projects with our partner schools in Kenya, Morocco, and the US. We also have student teams from Sacred Heart, Sarah's school, working on tree-themed projects. Would someone from the tree committee or the EPC be willing to talk to students about their work on maintaining a healthy urban forest? Sorry, I have to go. So that's what she was going to talk about, but she had to go. So I don't know what to say with that one.
Well, that doesn't sound like a huge time commitment in theory.
Do we know what the purpose of, like, what's the follow-up from that?
Yeah, and it's also the tree part. I don't know if it's appropriate. Would our arborists be able to speak to this?
Yeah, I think what originally was going to happen was that they had 2 parts to their proposal. One, which was, and the 2 asks of us were, one, to connect them to the schools, which we did. So thanks on that. And the second thing they were asking is that they were doing this Earth Day event where they have people planting trees around the world in all these different cities. They're videotaping it and they're going to make a video out of it. So when we were originally talking about planting a tree, there was some discussion about, can we be part of that? But we're now not going to do it on Earth Day, so we can't do that anyway, unless we somehow tape something in the future and we provided to any future video going forward. So we kind of missed the Earth Day part that we could have done with the tree. So that kind of changed with us with the timing of our project. So those were the 2 asks they were asking. And now she was asking if anybody that's related to our, what'd she say, a tree committee? I don't know. What was that?
We do have a tree committee in
Yeah. She said, would someone from our tree committee or the EPC be willing to talk to students about their work on maintaining healthy urban forests?
I
So
would love the
don't-
tree committee to do it.
So with the tree, I'm not sure she's asking for us to talk on the video during the event, or if she's talking about us to talk to the Sacred Heart and Sarah student that they have doing, I don't know. So this is the first I heard this, so I don't know. We'd have to follow up with her.
Okay. I think it's like, I don't think the tree committee has as many asks as we do. So I would actually let them have this ask.
Who's the tree committee, by the way? Who is that?
Oh, I
Is
don't
it-
know.
Is it residents or is it the?
They're
art-
residents, yeah, and they also have a city council member.
Yes.
Is it the Heritage Tree?
No,
Pardon?
That's correct. The town does have a tree committee that's made up of Atherton residents, similar to the way that the EPC is constructed. And they do have a city council liaison as well. I'd have to look it up to see who that is. But if this is something that you want to propose for the tree committee to consider taking action on, we can forward it on to the tree committee for consideration.
That would be perfect. I think that would be probably the most appropriate in this case because it's so tree specific.
And Sally Benz Dalton, the town arborist, is a staff liaison to the tree committee, similar to our role.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I was hoping that like that's a better vertical, I feel, to tackle this. It's super specific.
We will pass this information along to Sally to work on agendizing with her tree committee.
I just added what she texted me. I texted in the chat so somebody can grab it.
Oh, thanks so much.
Thank you.
So that's what she actually said. Sorry, it took me a minute to figure out I could do that. Sorry.
It's okay. Working on Zoom challenges all of us in different ways. I'm just trying to watch our time, but I don't think we have lots of things. So we have an Earth Day sort of plan. So it looks like we have the plaque, a document, and seeds kind of as our working plan. And as far as the olive, is olive tree, correct?
Yeah.
It looks like that you've connected them. So thank you, Diana. I appreciate that. Or whoever, Jake and Stephanie, their contacts that they have at Sacred Heart, that's helpful. Menlo and Peninsula, who else do we have? MA, I guess there's a few schools, but I know like not all of them respond the same. I've not had any luck with Peninsula in my time here so far. I've tried multiple times. So do you guys feel like that part, do you want to discuss anything more about the olive seed?
Jennifer has her hand up.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm at Peninsula. If we need help with that, I can.
That is great, Jennifer. I'm so excited. We needed someone on Peninsula forever.
Well, they tend to like to do their events. You know, it's kind of a community.
It's the
there.
Bridge Fund and
I
oh my
can-
God, Day of the Dead. There's a whole bunch of things. It's really interesting, but as far as connecting we haven't had anyone on our team so far. So this is awesome.
Sure.
It always helps to have a parent at the school because you have way more connections. It's harder to say no to someone you know.
Right. We'll see.
Was that information sent, like the internship and all that, sent to your school as well?
No, that was sent to Menlo Atherton High School, Sacred Heart Schools, and Menlo School. So the high schools that we typically send out any information to related to high school.
And
Is,
Peninsula goes up to 8th grade. So that could be the,
Oh, okay.
I was going to ask.
in the past, we reached out to middle schools. We've had like, we haven't had a lot of luck. So
You guys did a great job on picking the intern. I just want to say. She was
yeah, way to go. She's amazing.
excited, and I
so
think
creative. I love hearing the stuff that kids come up with. I mean, it's really, really awesome.
yeah, no, they're the future. So thanks for you guys. It's good.
Thank
You
you for
are
thinking of us. Jennifer, do you still have a question?
No, that should have gone down, huh? Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, and then for the next meeting, there's one thing that we're gonna have to do is we're going to have to nominate a new chair and vice chair since it's just been me. So think about your stump speeches, ladies, because I'll be leaving.
Can I ask a question real quick? Getting
Sure.
to the meeting tomorrow with the air board control, Jennifer, I'm not sure I have your email. Do you have mine? And was there anybody else who wanted to attend that?
Diana, I have to see if I can move something. I would be interested. I don't know if I can.
Okay. It's
I
a
do have your email.
It's 1 o'clock and it's a Zoom and so I will send the link to whoever wants to attend. But I assume we can't all be talking because it's, but so it's just, right now it's me and George and I think it's 2 or 3 people on their side.
Okay.
I looked at I have a doctor's appointment at that time, but I shared my email anyway in case there's follow-up or anything. Sorry to-
Okay, great. So if anybody does want to physically attend, or if anybody has any questions, specific questions they want me to ask, just shoot them to me before 1 o'clock tomorrow and I'll represent us. And I can also summarize what they say and give it to, how do I do it then? George gives it to Stephanie, or how does that work then? So I'll summarize anything that they tell me. I'll summarize in notes that we'll figure out how to share back.
That sounds great. Okay. We need to set our next meeting. So Stephanie, what is the date of it exactly?
I have that one up. It's May 20th, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Does anyone have any issues with that time so far? Does anyone have any comments, questions, or concerns? Would anyone move to adjourn the meeting?
Can I ask one last question?
Of
Do we
course.
still have an
Anna.
Do we still have an opening on this board or not? How many positions do we have open for? We have an advertisement for 1 or 2?
We have one open position, and I believe there was actually an application that was submitted to our clerk's office that needs to go through the appropriate steps. So I'll follow up with Anthony, the city clerk. Presuming that one person gets appointed by the council, there'll still be one open position.
So we have 2 open. So everybody get the word out to your friends. We're allowed to do that, right? So, and I don't know what, again, we don't ever publicize this stuff to the environmental community, which is really, and I don't really know how to do that. For example, Actera and all the same ones we just talked about, how do we get the word out through there? Whenever I'm at anything, I'll throw it out. So if any of you are at anything where there's people interested in environmental stuff, raise your hand and say, hey, we have 2 positions. So I try to do it whenever I can. If everybody does that, maybe we can get the word out.
Okay, happy to do my bit. Okay, anything else? Any moves to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any dissents? Looks like it carries, and I will see you May 20th at 1 o'clock.
Bye.
It was nice seeing everyone.
Buddy,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Okay.